Okay. Hi, it's Lourdes Santavalla, and I'm the co-chair of the Crash Committee. Crash in the other slide, it means a lot of things, but I don't know what, but it means that we're like an equity. Consider culture, show respect, assess, affirm differences, show sensitivity and self-awareness, and do it all with humility. As you know, we're a very important advisory council to the board. Sahira can't be here today, so I am here alone, but feel free to join in, interrupt, and help me out. And since it's already 4:05, we're going to go ahead and get going because the conference is coming up. So what we normally do at the beginning of the of the meeting is to kind of go roughly in order. I'm just going to go by the chat order. To share one goal you have for yourself for participating in this meeting, and then to share one celebration. And I can go first or last, however you all prefer.
Go for it. Let us bring us in.
Okay. Well, the goal I have for myself participating in this meeting is to be very actively present and to get to know all of you better as we're still getting to know each other better, and really to get us set up and excited about the conference, which is any day now, like 3 weeks, I think, right? And one celebration. This is going to be silly. I have an iPhone.
Yay!
But it's kind of a victory because I love Androids. I don't really want this phone. I had a phone that I loved, but it stopped working well. And if any of you read Spanish, you can go on my Facebook, and I have this whole tragic story about me and my phone and the SIM card.
The reluctant iPhone.
But the thing is, I am taking a podcast course. And I thought it was because I was going to learn how to like soon do a podcast. And no, on Sunday I'm going back and I have to have my podcast ready to go. So I'm going to be a podcaster. And the best thing to do it with is an iPhone. So that's my celebration with the phone is kind of indirect. Anyway, let's go in order who I see here. Treva, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. So my goal is to learn and share in this meeting. My celebration would be I have the opportunity to share on a panel discussion for community health workers in Kansas about how to integrate breastfeeding in their home visits. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Oh, that's cool. Congratulations.
All right. Since I'm going by my chat box, Liz, can you unmute yourself and go?
Theory. Hi, guys. Hi, folks. My celebration is that the work of the USBC Nominations Committee is done, and my role as the Crash Liaison full voting member of that committee is over. And it was hard work, but I think it will have good result and a good ballot. And my goal for this meeting is to learn what responsibilities I have and how I can best participate in the upcoming conference.
All right. Is it Zakia or Zakaya?
It's Zakia.
Okay. Zakia, hi.
How's everybody doing? One celebration I got a new job at Stanford at the Children's Hospital there. So I'm relocating to California in a month, which is very exciting. One goal I have for today is to figure out how I can be most helpful at the conference in a couple weeks. And if we get through some more recommendations, beautiful too.
Thank you.
Wow. Congratulations. You'll be my neighbor, very near me, Zakia.
Perfect. I don't know anyone there.
We have to catch up. Yes, definitely. Congratulations.
All right. Sissy?
All right. Am I unmuted? Can you hear
Yes.
me? All right. You're on my Bluetooth in my car, so we'll see how this goes. First off, hi everybody. Miss y'all. Excited to see you guys that are coming out this to the conference. I guess my celebration is I am in a new house. I'm separated and having a great time, and I'm so happy. So things are going really good. And as far as the call today, just always to learn from you wonderful people.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, Nandi.
Hey everybody. My goal for today is to learn exactly what I need to do to be as helpful as possible for the conference. I'm super excited about going. My celebration is my son is finishing 3rd grade today, and he was honored Wednesday for having an honor roll. So I'm really excited about that and just wanted to share my celebration.
Congratulations,
Congrats.
Mother of Honor.
Thank you.
Okay. She walked away. If Afinwa, I'm going to ask you to go because I see MA walked away from the camera.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My intention for today's meeting is to be present and to figure out how I can assist in regards to be able to attend the conference. I will be there for the business meeting. And my celebration for today is I just received notification of a grant, research grant being funded. So I'm super excited about that. And congratulations, Zakia. I too am in the Bay. So when you get here and are settled, definitely let Kinkini and I know.
Yes, please.
Congratulations, Isimra. That's great news. Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, MA, is that Michael?
Yes.
Okay.
Share one goal and one celebration is all the same. I actually got on the call, and I'm hoping they don't call me for these triplets before the call is over.
We're glad to have you.
All right, let me see. I think everybody else is staff, right? So let's start with Kinkini.
Hey everyone, my goal is to really explore with you all what we can do. I think our conference have been getting better and better every year. And so we, Ipenwa was chair last time and we set the bar really high. And we think that, we'd love to hear the discussion in this group and how we can really make this space multiracial, solidarity, inclusive, all of that. And my celebration is that my home team is in the NBA finals, so very happy for the Golden State Warriors. Pass it on to Miriam.
Hey everyone. So my goal today, since this is my second conference ever, I think Kinkini's right, and the first one last year was amazing, and I'm really excited to learn more, to see what you all have to say, and to see how we can make this one even better, which is exciting to know that that's possible. So, and my celebration for today is that it's Friday. I'm really excited. Hopefully a nice weather this week in Chicago. We've been up and down, so I'm looking forward to some nice weather.
Thanks, Ben. I'm Amelia, and my goal for today has to engage with all of you and really maximize the sweet spot that Crash occupies in helping to shape space together. for the conference. And I assume Kinkini will be sharing a little bit about the host training opportunity that we have and a way that we can be, I think, also using our time today to inform what happens at the training, as well as then that supports and holds everyone on the host committee, that then also leads into holding and shaping space together at the conference at large. So that's awesome. I think my celebration, like Miriam, is that it's Friday, and also that the USBC team is just rocking it, and all the different things that need to happen to make this conference happen. The conference committee, the conference planning committee. I mean, everybody is just working so well, and the staff team is awesome. And we really are going to have like a weekend breathing space, even in this very busy season. So, just really pleased to be part of a great team. Thank you.
All right. I see Ana Linares is not here. Elise is not here. Emily is not here. Chanel.
Mona was last name on that prior slide too.
I couldn't see it, or when I moved it.
Yeah, just at the last second. I think it's half
Mona
cut off.
Lisa.
Mona's name's on the bottom there. Yeah.
Okay, Mona Lisa's not here. Chanel is not. And Sahira could not be here. So the ones that need to be here are not, and we'll get everybody else up to date with the recording. And just to remind everybody what the community norms are, I'd like to ask that we read the community norms. So, Afinwa, would you like to read the first one? Can you read it? Can you see it? Or you're on the phone? All right, I'll ask for volunteers.
I am connected through the phone.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I'm connected through the phone, but I'm trying to pull up the app right now.
All right. Well, somebody who tends to be quiet, would you please read the first and second one?
I'll do it. Everyone participates and speak from your own experience.
Somebody else. Nandi, would you like to read the third one?
Sure. Excuse me. Step up, step back. If, when in racially mixed groups discussing race, you usually hold back, speak up. If, when in racially mixed groups discussing race, you tend to speak often, take a pause.
Treva?
Stay engaged and open to new learning. Listen well for deep understanding.
Michael?
Honor concerns, ask for suggestions. No shaming, attacking, or discounting.
Liz?
Sorry about that.
All right.
Experience any discomfort that comes up as part of the learning process. Speak your discomforts. Breathe.
All right. And Zakia, you want to read the last two?
Maintain confidentiality. If you later share about your experience in a meeting, refrain from using names, and assume positive intent and take responsibility for something I can't see on the screen.
The impact.
Or impact. Okay, just popped up.
All right. And we're moving right along. I can't see the time, but we can go basically introductions and the norms, which we've just done. So I think we're doing okay on time. I think. And then next on the agenda, which seems like it's an hour long, is how do we create an inclusive and welcoming space at the National Breastfeeding Coalition's convening, and to look at the
we didn't mean to interrupt you. The name has changed, so it no longer
okay.
says coalition, because we want to be inclusive of all organizations, national organizations, everyone coming. And since people tend to call it the conference, now the first C is for conference and the second is for convening. And then that way we're able to keep NBCC, which is all branded everywhere. So the National Breastfeeding Conference and Convening.
So now it is the National Breastfeeding Conference Convening. So we want to review the program, review the community norms, which I suppose are the ones that we just discussed, but for the conference, and group discussion. I'm wondering if staff or if conference committee members have specific things that they'd like to bring up. I'm a little bit, I'm just reading the program here and playing my role of facilitator, but I'm a little bit lost too.
Yeah, no, staff will do that. So is there, Amelia, are you able to pull the conference program from the,
I see
either
it.
the PDF or, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't prepared for that, but I'll switch over to that. So just bring up
or the website or anywhere where we can see the schedule. So,
yes,
as Amelia is bringing it up, it's, we have like a soft opening on Thursday. So Thursday will be an all-day membership meeting. And so are you all, Nandi, Michael, Liz, are you going to be at the conference? Hussein, we'll miss you so much. So you're going to be at the meeting, but not at the conference?
Right. Graduation at UCSF is on the 14th. So I had originally planned to attend the conference, but I have students that are graduating, so I need to be at graduation.
All right. Well, we'll miss you. Will the others be at the there for the entire conference?
I'll be there for the 13th. This is Michael. Half the day on the 14th, I have a class. Yeah.
Okay.
Live in DC, Michael?
I work in DC.
Okay. So it's not the worst. Okay.
Okay, this is I will be there until Friday. I'm leaving Friday.
So you're there for a day?
Actually, I'm going to come in on the 12th. And
For
I'll
advocacy day, okay.
So
Wonderful.
a day, still technically 2 days, but I'll leave after the conference Friday, like Friday evening.
Okay. Great.
This is Nandi. I'll be there till Saturday.
Wonderful. Can't wait to meet you all. It's like we've seen each other. We've met each other virtually. It'll be great to finally meet in person. Sissy, will you be there?
I'm arriving. Okay, Zakia says she'll be there Thursday through Saturday, and that's my plan as well. I'm actually flying from Puerto Rico to North Carolina and driving up the 12th, and then be there Thursday till whenever.
And so, Katie, so that you know, I've got the I am displaying the program schedule.
Thank you. So Thursday is a soft opening. The all day is the membership meeting, but in the evening, as soon after the membership meeting ends, is the regional meeting. So that is where we have these 7 different regions, kind of based on the way USDA WIC creates these regions. So we'd love to have you, if you are available Thursday and you're in, we'd love to assign you to the regions. Our board members will be facilitating. So any board member who's from the Mid-Atlantic region or the Northeast or the Southwest will be there, but we'd love the host committee members to be there. So that's kind of a very informal networking space. It's only for 45 minutes. Folks who are national nonprofit members, a lot of coalition folks come in, and each region has about 6-7 states. So if you can see the Mountain Plains region and the West Pacific region. And so it's a great way to kind of start the conference by making some friends, hearing some updates from the state. so what we might do is I'm going to be, we have a master list of volunteer activities. So I'm going to ask today what might be some ways that you can help. But if you are available that evening, would you be okay going into your regions for making helping our board members to facilitate that room?
I'd be fine with it. And I believe we are Mountain Plain.
Yes. Yes. I'm sending an email with, yeah. So, great.
I'm willing to go. My geographic region has never made sense to me. So I think that it would make sense also because of the organization that I go with, the Cultural Coalitions.
Wonderful.
All right.
That would be fabulous. And so then there's a exhibit and reception, and that's kind of fairly free, open time that evening. The next morning we start at 9 o'clock, and we have it begins with our board chair. The opening ceremony will probably be a local poet slam. So I know that Sarah has been trying to find some local artists or storyteller, and so we still haven't confirmed, but we might have a poet come in and say some verses. We can't wait to show you the program book. It's so exciting, and we've been working on our community norms, some of our other guidelines as well, putting our diversity, equity statements in there. So that happens in the morning. Our chair gives the USBC board chair gives her opening, and then our CPC chairs do it. So those introductions and things are taken care of during so we need, how do you all feel about being moderators for either a breakout session or a general plenary session? Do you feel like any of you would like to have a moderator role? So these are some options we have. We have these breakout sessions. So each one can sign up for one or maybe two roles if you can. So there's the breakout session moderators, and we need about 9 of them. So we're going to ask our CPC, CRASH, membership committee as well. And in the evening of Friday, we have these identity caucus spaces. So we have, if you can scroll down, Amelia, you'll see that we have a bunch of different ones. Again, many of our board members have, will be there in all of these spaces as well. So a lot of this is not too much of heavy lifting. It's co-facilitating, making sure that folks are there. If there are things that need to be unpacked, we can unpack. If there are discussions, so I know, Ife, where you've managed a number of our identity, when we had all our space for people of color, you've managed that for the last 2 years. Any tips you'd give our folks here who will be there for the first time?
I think setting the tone is really important, and really making sure that folks know that it's a safe space, but it's also a confidential space in the sense of what is said in that room really needs to stay in that room, and that we're providing an opportunity for folks to share feelings about not only what has gone on within the conference setting in terms of presentations and conversations and things of that nature, but other things within the field that they may not have an opportunity to discuss back in their organizations or in their home states and things of that nature. We've typically always gone over time as well too, so that's something to think about as well. We've just kind of kept talking. Also, sometimes it gets a little emotional in that space. So something I learned, I think the first time, is to bring tissue or napkins or something for folks, especially if they are feeling raw or vulnerable or had a negative experience, or something that a presenter or something shared that really resonated. Sometimes folks get rather emotional in terms of retelling or resharing those experiences. But really just making sure that folks, everyone who's in the room, gets an opportunity to share if they would like, capturing some notes. I know last year Mona and I took turns kind of documenting some key points that resonated from the meeting that went on to be shared with the board. So kind of deciding how whatever comes out of the conversation is going to move forward, if that is consensus of the group. I'll stop there, but happy to answer any questions or offer support for whoever's going to be facilitating that space this year.
Right. Thank you, Fema. And we will have like some sticky sheets on the wall with some affirmations and just some things. We'll have, maybe bowls of mixed nuts or candy and some things. I know that Liz has facilitated the white only space, and for some reason we are naming it the anti-racist white ally anti-racist space, because that is the one space where there's hardly anyone, and folks, we all have to do our equity work in different ways. So our white sisters have to do it in a different way from us folks of color. And most people say, oh my gosh, I feel really embarrassed going into a Liz has had resources. So Liz, you want to share a little bit? And we'd love to have a greater attendance this time and participation in the white only space too. So if you have any ideas, do let us know.
Yeah, I highly endorse the notion of you changing the name, because at the last conference, I was sort of drafted on the spot to be the room leader, and which I happily did. But it was interesting because we're all kind of like saying, "Oh, why do the white folks need to get together in a room?" And so I just figured I was going to go there for 10 minutes and no one would show up. Well, the room was packed. Well, packed as it can get during happy hour, right? And there was this notion, these were folks who were wanting to discuss how to be good allies without putting their feet in their mouths, by trying to discuss it with folks, that they were concerned about, offending. And so it was an interesting and good. I had no idea there would be call for it, but I like the idea of giving people a clue that this is where you're going to come to learn more, because it's our job as those who come from dominant culture to figure out how to learn more, all on our very little lonesomes. So, kudos to you, and I'm more than happy to facilitate or let someone else do it. You just put me wherever you need me.
Thank you, Liz. So yeah, these side events are optional for the participants, but really great for the host committee to be there, because often there are first timers who come in, folks feeling, like Ifema said, raw, emotional, and it's just really great. I've been to every single one since we started doing the Identity Caucus spaces, and just come out feeling, just the feeling of love and solidarity that's in the room, even in terms of sometimes there's just deep hurt, but it's still very, very valuable to be part of that. So I think, I don't want to belabor the program very much. I think those were the main spaces that we'd love to have folks there. And then we are so excited. I mean, finding a host trainer has been quite the job. I think we've gone through 9 or 10 folks. Many of them have, out of the box training, like implicit bias or structural racism and systemic racism, that they'd have presentations ready. And we were like, no, we love that. And we have that, but can you kind of come and do a coaching workshop with us about how to disrupt negative dynamics in real time when it happens, and how do you foster and model and do that intentionally? How do you open your eyes to even be able to see when when exclusionary behavior is happening, and how do we do that? So we have Kiran Katira, who did a plenary for us, I believe. It might have been the 2016 conference. And so she's willing to do it, and she is available the first week of June. So today I'm sending a scheduler out, but how she's thinking of designing this is to have anyone who's coming kind of think about like one thing they'd like to know, like what do they, if they've been to the USBC conference, like what comes up for them every time that causes, racialized issues or other kinds of issues related to inclusion and, fully feeling belonging in that space. And so either it's a hope or a wish or something that you need. And she said, let's get, if you send a survey out with that one question, she's going to word it for me, and then I'll send it out. And she says that we'll gather them together, and then we'll, maybe select 4 or 5 for that 90-minute session, and she'll kind of work through a few and maybe do some role play, or how do we do that, and then have an open 40 minutes of open time for any other questions that come up. So that's kind of the planned design for the host training. And again, we'll be recording it all because we have like so many board, crash, conference program, Constellation Steering Committee, membership. These are all now members of the USBC's host committee. So finding a single date and time that works for everybody might not be possible, but we are sprinkling it with some morning session, morning, afternoon, and even some few options after work, like maybe 4 o'clock East Coast time, 5 o'clock East Coast time. So if there's a possibility for folks to not be able to do it during work hours, we'll probably give about 10, 12 options during that week, so we can choose something that works for the most number of people. So if you have any other thoughts, like Kiran is still in this mode of planning, designing, especially what you'd like from the host committee, this is a good time to ask her to make it like we like it.
When is karaoke? Just kidding.
We shall do that. Maybe you can lead that.
I have a question about we're kind of talking about the white supporters group. Would it be helpful if someone of color was there to kind of help people understand what might be offensive? Or should we just leave that space for that group?
This is Liz. I appreciate your thoughts, Treva, and I think the answer is yes, it would be helpful, but I think that it might then defeat the purpose. I mean, there were people who came the last time around in this very impromptu thing who said in no uncertain terms, I feel like I can ask questions here, and in a white only space, because they're going through a little cognitive dissonance, and we all are, right? And I think, I struggle with it because it does seem very pretentious to have, space set aside for white folks.
I
but it's also there is something to be said about holding up safe space for people who self-identify to be with folks who self-identify with them the same way, period, stop, no changes. I sort of feel like the conference itself includes many opportunities for folks from dominant culture to figure out why the heck we're stressing equity so much. They shouldn't need to come to the little secret meeting, you know, the secret passcode meeting to learn more. But I'm open, I'm flexible, man, you know, so.
Yeah, just a thought. I was just wondering, from my perspective, if I wanted to be respectful of a particular culture, I would want to ask someone from that culture. And being in a room with folks like me, could that be answered?
So I agree with you. And I would also say, why is it your job to do the training of all of the white folks, not only in that room, but of the rest of the world? So
Thank
like,
you, Liz.
yeah. So one of the things that I stress is, hey, guess what? There's a lot of voices out there. Start reading, start blogging, start following people on Twitter. Twitter, here's this good blog, you know, kind of do the leapfrog, you know, you go to one place and it tells you to go here. And that's one of the things I stress the most is like, there's a lot you can pick up on your own by just listening and being willing to learn. And then when you kind of have a sense of issues, language, concerns, then you're in a less centering place to build relationship. A lot of the concerns that white folk have are about centering. Oh, well, will people think I'm serious? And my answer is like, no matter what you think. We're not all sitting around wondering about your feelings. You know, if you really want to take a deep dive on dismantling racism, then it doesn't matter what people think of you and how serious they perceive you to be. Just do the frickin' work, you know, and you know, the excellence of your commitment, the excellence of your professionalism will precede you. And from there, relationships can be built.
So this is Sissy. I agree with the idea of having someone in the space is always a good idea, just to give that additional perspective. But and so that's not our job. And so there's been plenty of times I've had allies in my own circles that'll be like, it's not Sissy's job to educate you. If you have a question, you can do the research just like she can. And there are so many opportunities during the conference for people to be like, hey, during the, you know, during the kind of secret group or whatever, in the group or whatever, we had this question. I just wanted to get your perspective, you know, because we want to be able to be like, we're safe people to talk to, but we also don't need to hold the burden of everybody's, you know, education.
Agree. Thanks, Sissy. So we have a couple of different framing questions, and we're kind of spontaneously going into them. So I just thought it might be helpful to put some of these up. So, you know, when you think about co-creating a successful conference, and in particular coming together as a host committee body, what is it that we want to co-create, and what's your vision? So we've been talking a little bit about how to decenter whiteness, advance equity and inclusion. I think that's kind of like the baseline and the purpose of our committee and also the host co-committee. But we'd love to use this time with you to hear a little bit more about, you know, whether you've been there or not. What would you hope the space could be?
Are you talking about the space as a whole or some of the breakout sessions?
Well, I mean, I think the space as a whole. So what's the vision for, you know, again, what would a successful host committee co-create? What would you do together if you're, earlier this week I read the term shaping space, and I've been giving a lot of thought to how is that different than holding space, and what does that mean? And so if we're coming together and we're all active participants and having a responsibility and we're shaping one another because we're listening to each other and it's really dynamic, like, let's think ahead to what would we want that, what could that be overall?
Well, one thing that I would add from last year is that, because this is going to be my, is it going to be my 4th conference or my 5th conference? The first year was very disruptive because it was really the first year that a lot of equity, like that the status quo changed. So there was a lot of resistance. So the second year was about regrouping and doing some very concentrated equity work. And then, if I'm not mistaken, then the third year, which was last year that I went to, was a lot of the groundwork had already been laid out. Now this year is going to be different because we have new members. So the one thing, the first thing is that it's very important that we be at everything. The people who know how the organization work be at everything. And I particularly think that's important for some of the something went down. Now I can't remember if it was at no, I didn't go to ILCA, so it wasn't business. During one of the evening sessions that was supposed to be fun, I was like in my hotel room studying, and that was when all hell broke loose. So that we really have to be even at the open mic karaoke. Did I mention karaoke? Anyway.
Yes.
Yes, but you got that right about the open mic, huh? Yes.
Right, exactly. But so that's all I'm going to say. And the rest, I think that people can give ideas. But I think that I think here we're like a bit of an insular group because we have very similar vision. Some of us are newer than others, but we have an idea of what the Crash Committee is, and Crash has a very big responsibility to help lead the climate and the culture of the group, so that it like the fact that Kinkini had mentioned that we be at the breakout sessions, that we be in the cultural caucuses, but it also means that if there's an informal coffee break, because that's where some of this stuff happens sometimes.
This is Nandi. I have a quick question. So this will be my first conference for this organization. Is there typically a lot of racial tension, or what are some of the things that you all have seen happen so that we would know what to expect if something does happen?
So I can say, having been, this will be my 4th conference, Nandi. Some of the things are also that over time, we've really changed the guidelines for proposals because we've made equity a focus and said not just, equity washing in that sense, but if you are talking about a community, make sure that someone from that community is presenting and you don't have that. But there's a lot of even during presentations, people talk about those people and that group when they are referring to a group or research or study. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that this field generally has had a, disproportionate share of white women, and a lot of our community are newer members of color that come in. Don't always belong to the national organizations. They might be grassroots and things. So there's a little bit of that, kind of, I think, academic snobbery. I don't know, but just of that who has more letters after their names, who is more, is that the community voices as valid and as, what kind of credibility do we give to those? But just it's so invisible, the culture. It's because it's white dominant culture, what's considered polite, what's considered, professional behavior, what's considered. So things that are in the water that you don't even think about. But when you start having a critical, if you're in the, if you're one of a few people of color, you do notice, my goodness, how much one has to, people who are of color have to code switch all the time to be there. So now we've kind of with these community norms, and with every single year, we've seen an increase in the number of representatives and participants of color coming in across different sectors, and first timers, lots of first timers. So initially we'd have a lot of folks who came every single year, and they formed, pretty tight cliques. So you could be sitting in a table of 10 and the other 8 are just like talking to themselves, and there's no volition, there's no malice, but they just ignore any person who's new because they're meeting after a year. So just being a little bit more intentional. So what we ask our host committee really is, spread yourselves out in the ballroom, like when we have general sessions, like sit at a different table every time, like, instead of all board members congregating in the first center table right in front, like think, like go to the back of the room once in a way, go to the middle of the room, find some new faces. You will all have ribbons which says host, you're the host. So in that way, and it's totally okay to say, hey, I'm here for the first time too. If you don't know an answer, there'll be a, kind of reg desk with all of our staff team. You'll meet, when we get there, we'll make sure that we all get to meet each other, the board. And so by, hopefully by Thursday evening, we'll know many of each other. We'll probably, I don't know, we could even start a little group. We'll exchange cell phone numbers if you need to. So those are at least my perceptions of how sometimes things play out, you have table sharing and this is a complaint that, we read all the evaluations, conference evaluations. So we've been reading these for 4 years. One thing that comes up is that, you can say something and it just kind of washes over people and they then move on to something like you haven't spoken or you're invisible. So people saying, I feel invisible. But again, for those Liz, Ifeanyi, who've come to our conferences, you've seen like every year we've been making a difference, and these last 2 conferences have been, really transformative in many, many ways.
I think also
I think to her initial question, I would say yes, that there have been issues as it pertains to some of the structural racism and oppressive things that have been perpetuated. To a lot of what Kinkini said, there's been a lot of intentional work that's been done to address address those issues. I'm really trying to do it more in the moment than after the fact. But I think it's fair and transparent to say that, yes, that has occurred. And it's been, I think, to the testament of USBC to be very open and transparent about some of those things, and to be also very intentional about addressing them and not letting things fester. And folks, and also I think something that's really important about this meeting and this space is also that's put in the room that being uncomfortable is okay. We're not here to make everyone comfortable, right? You need to be somewhat uncomfortable and really challenge some of those historical and grounded notions that perpetuate and sustain some of the inequities and disparities that are talked about and that we're hoping to address and improve. And so I think the fact that that's of value and something that's reiterated, that there are going to be some times during this meeting that you're going to be maybe uncomfortable or challenged in the way in which you've been doing things. And that is okay, right? If we all have the same goal, or at least a shared goal in terms of making the field better and centering the individuals and families that we're working with, then we all should be a part of this movement, and that this is a train, and this equity, this racial equity journey that we're on is something that we're not stopping. And so sometimes in terms of reading some of those reviews, people will say, well, why are we still talking about this? Why do we have to continue talking about this? And really understanding that this is a continuous and ongoing process, that it isn't, I went to one equity lecture and I'm good. No,
Right.
it's a journey. And so we're going to continue to weave it in and embed it into everything that we're doing, because it is a core value of the organization.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
I think hearing all those things, I think I would say that my personal vision is for people to feel heard and for people to feel like they're part of a community. I would never want anyone to leave a conference, particularly something like this, feeling like they're invisible. And so, I mean, it's hard, I think, to make sure that happens for every single person, but I think if we work hard to make it happen for the general space, then as years go by, more and more people, or less and less people, will feel invisible. So I think for me, that's really important. I can't imagine feeling that way. Just the way that, as involved as I have been in other conferences, like I can't imagine leaving American Public Health Association feeling like I was invisible and, you know, my voice wasn't heard. I would never want anyone to feel that way. So I think for me, that's really important, that we figure out how to make sure people do not step away from this conference feeling less empowered than when they arrived.
Thank you. If I may share, you know, one reflection, kind of watching the arc. In particular, as Kinkini said, you know, the USBC was largely founded by older white women working in healthcare. And I think when USBC began this equity journey, there were many who really were at a point where they wanted to kind of like be congratulated for their contributions. And when they were confronted with a conversation of like, okay, and here's more work to do and a different kind of work to do, I think there was some time of kind of reeling back and not being ready for that conversation. And it's, you know, the progress that's made is completely, you know, thanks to the women of color who, you know, had to bear the leveling up of the collective capacity to be able to be in difficult conversations, to be uncomfortable, to recognize that a bigger table didn't mean less room for them, or didn't have to hear it as having done something wrong, but could hear it as like, and here is something more that needs to be done in order to make this even better and stronger. And, you know, over time, layering on, I think, a lot of different trainings and experiences, you know, that membership was ready to, you know, expand, change who was in the room. That was the first amazing thing that CRASH helped us do, was doubling up the number of member representatives for each organization and saying that those 2 new reps needed to be, you know, representative. So just instantly in one meeting, you completely changed the look of the room, who was there, and that changed the conversation. But, you know, in the beginning, I think that, I think what I observed, what I heard was that many sisters of color experienced a lot of trauma in those early meetings. There was a lot of, I think, late nights and taking care of each other, and a lot of grieving, and a lot of, you know, lack of accountability and awareness by the white women in this space. But as Kinkini said, this last year we had almost, I don't remember the exact numbers, but almost 50% people of color, and I think also like 42% first-time attendees. So we've really changed who was in the room, like fresh faces, much better representation. And there was a moment at the closing ceremony last year where one of our Tribal Trailblazer awardees came to the, I think that was right, Vivi came to the microphone in tears and just, you know, said that she had never been in a space where she felt so supported and so seen, and that where she really felt like the white people in the room were accountable. So it was you know, that was a pretty amazing moment, and that's the kind of momentum that we want to continue to build on actively.
This is Treva. This will be my 3rd year, and the last couple of years, from my perspective, I think, not that we should stop or we don't have ways to go, but I think the USBC has done a good job at decentering whiteness, and as far as racially mixing the crowd. I think one area that we probably need to work a little harder on is, and can Kenny kind of touch base on it, is status. So last year I heard a lot of people feeling like, well, I don't have an IBCLC. I'm not, am I worthy to be in this space? Or so I kind of got some feelings from that, and I think we need to address some of that and help people to know that their experiences, regardless of education, alphabet soup, is important.
Yeah, our new membership, Treva, thank you for that. Our new membership really makes a difference. And one thing that maybe Zakia and Nandi, you might maybe new to you, is that we have a funding structure through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, where we've had a relationship with each state and territorial coalition. And USBC provides, partial support, pretty significant support to 2 reps from each state coalition and territory coalition to attend the conference. And in the past, we've just kind of urged them and recommended strongly that please, of the 2, please have one person be a person of color. And until we were urging and inviting and, strongly, it did not make a significant difference. But that is where the power of CRASH comes in. Like last year, CRASH said, enough. We've got to mandate it. If we are giving people money to come, like, why should we not mandate? And we actually said, you really have to have one person who's from an underrepresented community. It could be rural for those which are, or it has to be. And the moment the critical mass changes and there's just, equal numbers, then a lot of things become, the entire ambience changes. It's when you have a very small number of people of color that the force of the dominant culture seems a lot more, you can feel it for folks who are not of that culture. But when you kind of have a much more mixed different races, automatically there's like a little bit of a chilling and chilling not in that sense, but like relaxing of the kind of strongly held norms. So I think that's been a big difference as well. And so we are so excited. Our membership has gone from 55 or 60 members to about 92 new members. So not everybody will be coming for the conference, but just the fact that our membership has grown by, or more, I think by 40% is huge. And many of these are, local, tribal, cultural coalitions, community-based organization. We have a faith organization as a new member as well. So our member base is changing dramatically, and that's very exciting.
This is I literally last year, a year and a half ago, I was going through that where I was like, I'm only just a CLC. I don't see why I even, was interviewing some member of the team. And so when we started having really candid conversations about why I felt that way, and why, I didn't even know about USBC, or then when I started talking about it, all these people that I was in circles with were like, oh yeah, we know it's USBC. And I'm like, well, why didn't you guys tell me that's something that I should be a part of? And there is a lot of that where it's like letters or experience or degrees makes people feel like, well, your information is cool, but my experience and my, master's or doctorate or whatever makes me better than you. And it's like, but then you meet cool people like Liz, who's like smart and tech and experienced all life, but she's like super chill. So I don't know. I just wanted to-
I want to add that sometimes the things that happen are very subtle, and maybe don't even happen. Like sometimes it's like what Kenny had said, like a table of 8 people who know each other and 2 people who they kind of look at and then they go back to, as we were saying, or in the hotel room, and later on you'll find out about it. So that's kind of where we come into play. If we notice uncomfortable things, because sometimes people are afraid to speak out or really identify ourselves as being there, so people see us as safe. So if something happens, they could come to the side and tell us, I'm feeling this happening, or I heard that this happened at such and such group, or there's this woman and she's looking at me this way, or I didn't like this language that was used. Because a lot of it is microaggression.
I think
When
every
this,
conference that I've ever been to, I've never felt very welcome. I've not been to USBCs yet, so I'm excited this year, but like I feel regardless of the alphabet, you could have the IBCLC, you could have the degrees, and I have never really felt safe, like it's been a safe space in the field of lactation most of the time. So I completely even like with the fairy hair, which like seems something so small, but you go to these conferences where everyone's like, I have fairy hair. And it's like, well, we don't all get fairy hair. So like, that doesn't work for everybody. So just like little things like that. Like I feel pretty comfortable saying these things, but I think there's a lot of people who may not be like as outspoken about it. So I think like that's definitely a way that like I know that we can help, just because that's why a lot of people, you always hear about like we need more young people in the field, we need more people of color, and it's like, well, we don't always welcome them in with a warm embrace, which can then lead to people not really wanting to be a part of our community. You know?
Thank you for sharing. So we have a couple different ways, you know, if we want to keep walking through. I'm not attached to walking through the slide deck and the questions that have been queued up. I think it's a really rich conversation, which is just actually kind of leading really well through from one to another. So I wanted to lift up in terms of host committee preparation. You know, Kenny mentioned earlier in the call that we have this training set up that we're pretty excited about. And, you know, I guess from my perspective, my experience has been we've tried having host committee trainings each year prior to the conference, and at this point we still haven't quite received what we want. And even though we've asked each year, what we want is a training that really equips everybody to feel like they can step in and disrupt things in real time. So those microaggressions, to somebody coming to you about something that they saw, something they heard, something they felt, that you feel ready, as when you've got the host ribbon on, you feel ready to be able to respond to that person and then respond more broadly, and to connect with one another, so that we are a body that's holding and shaping the space together as the host committee. So we're excited that the trainer this year is approaching this from the perspective of asking everyone on the host committee, what questions do you have? What things are you concerned about? What do you want to be able to do? So we have the opportunity to be shaping and informing the training we receive. And I'm hoping that from that dialogue perspective, we're going to end up getting something that really helps us feel ready for this. So I think it would be helpful for Kenny and I don't want to speak out of turn, Kenny, but I think since we're working with the trainer, it would be great if, is there anything that hasn't been surfaced yet about the questions that you have as you're thinking about going into the training, anything else you'd want from that trainer? I think there might be a survey opportunity to respond to this too, but I think we would benefit from hearing a little bit more of, you know, what questions you have, what would help you prepare.
This is Nandi. I don't have anything specific. I think the conversation that we've been having now has been extremely helpful. You know, I've had some experience sort of putting out fires, various types of fires. But I mean, anything that is specific to what has occurred in the past, I think is helpful for me. But if I think of anything, I'll let you know. Me.
Yeah, this is Kinkini. I've been making notes as you all speak. So, hearing, I think Zakia said nobody should be feeling invisible. Your voice is heard, and we'll build a beloved community there. And then, Triva, you said that there was some, self-reflection and just folks feeling like I'm surrounded by people who have more letters and are my degrees or qualifications, and I think that affirming that there's evidence-based practice and practice-based evidence, and people are bringing their the full spectrum of the expertise and experience and wisdom that is being harnessed in this room. So definitely, making sure that in our chairs, address, our board chair, our CPC chairs, like these are some messages that we keep affirming throughout the time in the room. So these are really great suggestions. So thank you. I heard Liz say that we'll definitely call the White Identity Caucus space, like rename it and, call it an anti-racist work. If you're interested in doing that, we'll have like tissues and paper and snacky things and anything that, really fosters well-being in these caucus space rooms.
So Lourdes, I want to support you as the chair. We usually have the closing reflection, and that can take 15 minutes. So I think we have about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
And we had 2 other question prompt slides if you want me to show them, or how can I support you?
Well, you just kind of slid through those, so.
I wanted to see what was ahead, so I came back. So this was,
Okay.
I was peeking and didn't pause my screen, so I'm sorry.
Okay, so I we can just see
about concerns.
Slides. If anyone wants to read. Nan, do you want to read this first slide? Can you see it?
Yep, I just need to open my screen wider because it's too small right now. 1 second.
All right.
All right, I'm ready. What concerns do you have? How will you prepare yourself? People have different responses to conference content to needs, including cultural, social, physical, and overall well-being.
Okay, the next slide, Amelia.
Can I say something on that?
Yes.
First conference, and I can't remember who warned me, but they're like, be aware of how you're feeling physically. And I want to say, I was trying to go to all the things, participating in conversation, but by the end of the second day, I felt physically sick. It was just it gets kind of heavy. I don't know if that's the right word, but just the people that are going to the conference for the first time, walk away sometimes, take a moment for yourself, stay hydrated, get enough sleep, because there are going to be times where it's you don't need to be involved in every single conversation and you're healthy. So that would be something that I would say to prepare yourself.
Awesome
Thank you.
point. We can include that in the moderator training tips. Really good. Thank you.
All right, Zakia, you want to read this next slide?
Sorry to unmute. What hopes do you have? What steps will you take to bring this forward? Build conditions that promote equity and dialogue across differences and create healing spaces.
Any comments here? I think that we've created the healing space, and this is the part that I said, that for all of us to be ultra aware and to either offer to be the safe person for people who aren't being safe, or if we have the ability or the power that we see something happen, to speak up and to name it right there.
Yeah, and be there for support for each other too. So I think the good news is that this time the days will be a little shorter because we are starting late in the morning, and the last time there was a movie night after the open mic and all of that. This time it's, shorter days. So hopefully folks will get a little bit more sleep than we did last year.
It's interesting because the first thing on my page was someone lifted up, we got to be at everything and be vigilant. And then to see just my most recent note is, and also take breaks. So, I think we need to, it would be great if we walk through with enough awareness about like, okay, is someone holding that space? Because I'll out myself as someone, everything was going beautifully. We got to the movie night. I stayed for the film, and it just got to be the debrief after. And I was like, I'm going to go ahead to bed. And that's when things fell apart. So it's like being really intentional. I would have felt better later hearing about that if before I had gone to bed, I'd really checked in with other people in the room and said, hey, are you on? Like, I would like to take my turn kind of taking a breather. Are you here? And instead, I just walked away. And so one of my lessons is, okay, we've got to balance that self-care with also making sure the spaces are really held with intention, and we're checking in with each other about, what we need and how we're doing.
And I think, I feel comfortable enough in this group to say this, but ladies, the onus is not so much as on the folks of color as much as it is to follow the community norms and things, but we all take ownership in creating the healing spaces. But one of the things that we really saying is that we do want to see like a greater mass of white allyship who's actually actively in that space and doing that, because too often the work of doing the work of teaching people, explaining to them falls on us. So I feel even bad asking this group, like, how will you create a healing space? I mean, we need to create a healing space for our first timers and others. So, but we all take, ownership and responsibility as the host, but really it is, we are doing a slightly extra push on our white sisters to say, hey, look out for when these things are happening, so that when these disruptions happen, it's not, the leaders of color who have to take a larger brunt of conflict resolution.
Well, absolutely. And a great example that I heard, a story that I heard about that night when things fell apart, was so there's a white woman in the front of the room taking up too much space, kind of like things went awry. And someone on the crash committee turned to another white woman beside her and said, go check your girl. And, and that person stepped up. So, and hopefully the person who tapped the other person, hopefully that worked. But I guess I just wanted to say maybe there's also a mechanism here that another option is not taking it on, but saying like, this is you. If you're not seeing it, I'm going to tell you this is you. And I intend to walk in being vigilant and doing a good job. And I'm also, if I'm not getting it, I'm happy to be told I need to be on if I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, I think our core staff, core leaders do well. It's just that as we see, we just, with every passing year, we have like more and more white allies. But we keep seeing the need for we need like real fierce ones out there, like real fierce ones, like who can, and at USBC, we've been doing this for some time. So I think we have this expectation too that, hey, when you're coming to this space, come on, folks, white sisters, let's all be, really model, really seriously, like, reflect on privilege, how the power dynamics works out and does it. So thank you to Liz, to Amelia, to, other white sisters who do the work of speaking to your sisters.
All right. We take the time to end the meeting, but first, quickly, is there anything that's pending that somebody feels was not answered, that anything they have additional questions about before we get to the reflection? All right, so we do this reflection, and you don't have to answer everything, but we will answer one thing I learned today. What did I see here that surprised me? What stood out? What is one thing I will do? My gift, my wish, and how do I feel? Am I supposed to go first?
You're welcome to.
Okay. Well, one thing I learned is that even though I'm co-chair, that I can be quiet and everybody else knows what's going on. What did I see here that surprised me? Let me think. Well, that I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, but that you have to say that it's anti-racist white space. I'm not going to say what stood out. What is one thing that I will do is I will be present as often as I can, and when I'm not, I will make sure that other people are there at the same time, because that's where I think we all fell short last year. We just all decided to not go to the same thing. My gift is developing greater listening skills, and my wish is that we sing karaoke. How do I feel? I'm just really excited to see all of you again. I really am, and to meet the ones that I haven't met yet. And sorry that some of you are not going to be able to be there. And then let me see here with the participants. I noticed that Chanel is on here. Put you on the spot, and you will.
That is all right, and I do apologize.
It's all right.
For my tardiness, I have a somewhat sick child and have been running around all day from work and just trying to maneuver. But I'm like, oh, I gotta get on. At least let me be, in listening mode. But for what I did capture and gather from, the conversation, if anything, I can say that, just the part of, okay, how do I feel? As always, I'm just so grateful to be a part of Crash, and just to be in a space where I actually, I feel, respected, and I feel appreciated, and I feel safe to really have these deep conversations and conversations that are uncomfortable, at times. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be in this space with you all. My wish, I love your wish, Lourdes, because karaoke would be amazing. I second that. And honestly, I'm just really looking forward to also meeting everyone, in that same space, or everyone that's able to be there. I had my first experience at USBC last year, just as a rep, so not just as a rep, but as a rep for the Mass Breastfeeding Coalition. So honestly, being able to be present at USBC this year, and especially as part of Crash, it's definitely a new honor that I am so excited, to have this experience and experience it with everyone. But yeah, this conversation and the fact that we're in such a space and have the opportunity to have these conversations and, really operate within the charge that we have been, blessed with. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Mandy has asked to go next.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And as soon as I'm done, I'm going to jump off. So I'm going to have to miss everyone else. I apologize. One thing I learned, I think for me, the context of some of our discussions today was extremely helpful for me, just to learn more about how the conferences are run and what some of the potential issues that may arise. Let's see. One thing that I will do, I think, is to remain present in my thoughts and my actions and my responses. I happen to be one of those people with a lot of letters, and I have always tried to make sure that I don't make others feel less important because they may not have the degrees I have, because just like I bring something to the table, they do. And so I think for me that's really important, particularly in the space that we're approaching next month. My wish, okay, so I don't want to be corny, but I actually support her wish as well. I love karaoke, so I had to make sure that I threw that out there. And how do I feel? I'm really excited. I am super excited for this conference, and I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone. And so with that, have a great afternoon, and I got to go get my kids, so I'm sorry for cutting out early.
Thank you, Nandy, for being here.
Okay,
Bye, y'all.
See
My pleasure.
you in
All
2
right.
weeks.
All right, see ya.
Bye. Zakia, you want to go next?
Sure. So one thing that I learned is just more how we can be helpful, or I can be helpful during the conference, which I'm very excited about. I'm not surprised to hear that it's such a welcoming and inclusive space, just from how much work that we've done and kind of how we operate as a group here. But that stood out. I'm glad to hear. Again, I haven't had. Sorry. Hi, this is Maya. Hi. I haven't been to a space like that in the breastfeeding world as of yet, so I'm sorry. I'm excited to be able to, she's not going to stop. I'm excited to meet you all and get that experience as well. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person and to be able to continue this great work and kind of be at my first USBC conference. So, yes.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Nice. Yeah.
Treva.
One thing I learned was about some of the history of the USBC and the conferences. That was, I guess, not completely surprising, but I just didn't know how it got started, who started it. My wish is to make everyone feel included and help, and to know that hopefully that they know that they're there and they belong there, whomever that you are, whatever, I don't know, whatever race, whatever educational background, you're there, you belong there, and you do have worth. I feel responsible to help make that so. So that's all I want to share.
Thank you. Sissy.
I learned that my experience wasn't just like an IDP college. Like a lot of people feel that way, or have felt that way, I should say. Okay. So something that I'm very interested to do this year that I didn't do last year is I will not be a deer in headlights. I will try to be intentional and check in with everybody, because because there were times that just kind of like walked out of the session and went to another session without making sure everybody was okay. And so I want to be more intentional with just making sure that we're all taken care of, because there are times where it's like there are some people whose personality is just to go until they burn out. And so I want to make sure that those burnout people know they can take a breather and we can manage it for a little bit without them. And my wish is that I sing Old Town Road for karaoke. You guys know that song?
Can't hear you.
I said my wish is that I sing karaoke.
Karaoke. Yes. See? Okay. Afenwa?
I think for me, one thing I will do leading up to the conference is make myself available to support in any way that I can, especially being that I won't be there physically for the conference and convening itself. However, my wish is that the objectives and the goals for the conference and convening are achieved, and that the attendees go away feeling empowered, but also seen and knowing that they're wanted and needed within this field. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Liz?
There we go. I don't want to rename myself. All right. Things I learned, the preparation, ongoing preparation to get us ready for the conference, not only the conference content, but our role as Crash Committee members who are part of the welcoming committee. What I learned that surprised, I don't know if I should say it really surprised me, but what I did hear and see were new voices raising the same old problems. I mean, these issues don't go away. They're always there. And as new people come into organizations or new people come into the field of supporting lactation, we see that, you know, the old world doesn't die easily or quickly. What stood out was the commitment of all of the members of this committee to continually, you know, do right by themselves, do right by the committee, do right by USBC. One thing I'm going to do is make sure in microaggressions or call in instances of oppression that I'm seeing by folks who look like me. It's easier to call in folks who look like you than to call out folks that don't. And my gift is I have an attention to detail. I'm not quite sure how that's a gift in this context today, but it is a gift. And my wish is that gosh, what's my wish? Is that tomorrow when I go to work at the hospital, that it's an easy day, and that the families are getting support and breastfeeding is going well. And I feel good. Right now I feel good.
Is there anybody I missed from the committee? Staff, would you like to check in, Miriam?
Yeah, thanks. So I want to share that I feel really grateful for this group. Last year was my first conference, and we kind of got thrown in there. I was super recently hired, so I had no idea what to expect. And it was amazing, and except for a couple of little issues that we ran across, it was really, really great. And being part of this committee for my second time around has been really helpful. I think all of you have an amazing advantage. I feel like now I have an advantage to going in and being in a really great mindset and a really great kind of just point of view to really know how other people are feeling and kind of a history of how this conference came to be. And I do realize that USBC as an organization has worked through so much, and being a part of it at this stage is really interesting because so many of you have been a part of it for years now. And so I'm really grateful to have your perspectives and to hear these conversations. And I'm really excited to be with you all in person.
Kenny?
I feel, I just feel we lucked out so much with this group. We always do, but what an amazing community. And so I'm so excited about actually meeting you all in a little over 2 weeks. So that's, and I feel very hopeful. I think that the preparations are going well, and I want us to kind of, build a community that doesn't come, that lasts beyond the end of the conference, that even after the conference is over and we come back to our own cities, that community continues to stay in touch, be friends, collaborate, coordinate. And so I'm hoping, very excited and grateful to be part of this.
And Amelia?
Yeah, so my gift several times this week, Kenny has mentioned the term, and I think it's even a .org, beloved community, and I haven't looked up the website yet, but I have this image of next year's t-shirt, can combine the words someone brought about hoping everyone feels a sense of belonging. So I'm imagining a t-shirt that says, "We belong to a beloved community." And for me, that it encapsulates also, my wish that we're really successful in co-creating this space where everyone feels a sense of belonging, and that it's healing and rejuvenating to be there, that we're nurtured out of being there more than we're pressed out of being there. And if we're pressed, we're there for each other and all those things. So I feel anticipatory and excited more than anxious, which is different than I have experienced in other years. The action I'm going to take away. So one of the things that I do in Lactasia is co-facilitate the Lactation Support Provider Constellation, which is a space where there are representatives from every national training accreditation and mentoring organization. And we've been in a 6-year-long conversation about the different lactation types, provider types, and really working through this whole thing about that there's different ways of being, knowing, and doing, and they all have value, and we all bring value, and who's to say what it is that makes the biggest difference for a mom? It's not necessarily the alphabet soup, could be language, culture, all those things. And we're getting to a point within that group now where they're producing work to share what it is, the kind of the breakthrough that they've experienced in this incubator that they've created and held each other in for the last 5 or 6 years. So an action I'm going to take is to bring to that group the reminder that these themes keep on surfacing at different lactation conferences, including ours, and to ask if maybe by next year the LSP Constellation could be ready to take this on directly, or just to they won't be officially part of the host committee, but like Crash, I think they might have a role to offer. So I'll bring part of the conversation reflections that I heard today over to that group, so that we continue to multiply the people who are holding that particular piece with intentionality.
All right. I know we're at time. Thank you. So I don't want to rush it, but in the interest of honoring people's other commitments, anyone have anything they want to add? Otherwise, I will just say to all of you who we won't be able to see, we're going to miss you, but we can call you. And everybody else, let's do something at some point. Okay?
Karaoke. Sounds great.
Karaoke is going to happen.
I can tell. Thanks, everyone. All right, have a good weekend, everyone.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.